What is up, my friends? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you could find over at MMA Junkie as well as linemovement.com. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's before the fight, because weigh-ins are going right now, meow. So it's going to be an expedited edition as I try to keep these, max an hour anyways. We'll try to even go under that. Check the timestamps in case I fail. Of course, always on the YouTube channel, Daniel Tom MMA. Thanks for the likes and recent subscriptions. Apple Podcasts or other podcast platforms. In the show notes, I will timestamp when we start the breakdown for UFC Vegas 19, as per usual, from top to bottom. And if you're in even more of a rush or want to hear even less of me, I don't blame you. You can always go to the end where I recap my picks and plays on all episodes. So we're going to do a quick recap after some quick shouts of UFC 258. Such a good podcaster. I don't even have the numbers in front of me, but it's okay. We'll go through that as per usual from top to the bottom. It was a good night. Good thing I'm not a big victory lap person, because when I'm late with these episodes, I don't even have time if I wanted to. Or even when I do the, post shows. I think for the last pay-per-view I did. Shouts to my man Spencer Kite. But it definitely was a good night. So hopefully it was a good night for my listeners. More importantly, we'll recap that very shortly. And then we will push on to the breakdowns. But I mentioned some new subscribers. I believe a lot of those were due to my recent appearance on Heavy Hands, which got some nice positive feedback there. I've been seeing on the tags and the Twitter spheres. Sorry if I haven't gotten back to you. It's been a bananas week. That's why this is coming late. I'll spare you the excuses. No one cares. Let's just say I'm like Al Swearingen around here, except instead of like two dopes doing my bidding, I got two dogs and everything else maybe minus the horse. It's been crazy. It's been crazy over here. As it is for a lot of people. Shout out for my homies out there in Texas, by the way. Man, I can't even complain about the power outage that we had during this card that I was in part of. I was able to save. My stuff didn't spoil, thankfully. I was able to keep the fridge closed and stayed away from it. But it's like the opposite problem over in Texas. They're having like icicles and crap and their own weather stuff. So, heart goes out. I hope everyone is okay in that area, whether you listening or not. And check in on people, will you? I have TSOV, Sound of Violence podcast. I owe them a paddle story, but I feel like I got to push through. I'm also going to push Amazon Reads aside, so I will bookmark that for now. And there you go. Nice. I was going to say free shout, but they're all free shouts, obviously. But a shout to the Sound of Violence podcast, who I was commiserating with because one of my favorite podcasts, Art Fight Podcast, is no longer. I'm really bummed. Joe Nolan, Brian, you guys are awesome. Definitely a podcast that I love to listen to. I hope they come back, but I understand. Boy, I have my own trials and tribulations more than I'd like to admit as far as dealing in the space. I am grateful, don't get me wrong. It's just, especially, it's just, my body's falling apart. I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm like, I still got to go see the doctors, and I'm just swamped with crap. This MMA schedule is nuts, but we love it, so that's why we're here. So I digress. I just, I just don't like seeing the good guys who are sticking it out in the space, but I understand. I completely understand, you know what I'm saying? So, but shouts to them. Art Fight Podcast, man. Lucas Grandshire had me on his podcast as well. I had some nice comments about that as well. Go follow my man Lucas at Grandshire MMA, and subscribe to his channel, all that good stuff. I'm going to give that another share on my timeline. It's just been so bananas. I haven't been able to, and I wrote Die Hard here. I think that's for Clint from the Die Hard MMA pod. As busy as I am, like I said, with Art Fight Podcast, that's like a podcast where I would make time to Heavy Hands. All these guys, I try to make time for. And I've had a lot of crossover audience with Clint's audience asking me to do the Die Hard MMA podcast. And so I wanted to let you guys know that it is not falling on deaf ears. Clint is the man. He has reached out. By the way, he seems like a really good dude just in general. So follow I believe it's at Die Hard MMA pod. I'm sure I'll be giving him like a share or something soon. But I will be doing that for people who have reached out. And I think that cancels it out for the shoutout. So UFC 258 went down. Kamaru Usman defeated Gilbert Burns. Let's see, we went 1-0, 2-0, 3, 5-0 for the main card. 5-1, 6-1, 6-2, 7-2, 7-3 overall, and our Maverick play was canceled. That sucked. And then we'll actually go from bottom to top. And then we'll get to the Rowan. That which failed. And then but my bias picks were right, and then overall the picks and reads were right, even to the props that I recommended. So we'll get to that. Kamaru Usman defeated Gilbert Burns 3rd round TKO. Was right on the pick. I was just wrong on. Thought I was going to go long. Thankfully, I didn't bet, or I know I wasn't like screaming to bet the over. But people asked me my opinion. I definitely thought it was going to go over. So apologies if I led you wrong in any way there. But hopefully the pick led you right, and you had the bulls to parlay it. My main card parlay that I always do went through, which is always nice about those 5-0s on the main card. Alexa Grasso defeated Macy Barber. I'm also going to go fast on these because shout out to Heavy Hands. We did much more of an in-depth breakdown, and you get much more intelligent folks chiming in than just stuck with my voice. So I will refer you to the Heavy Hands podcast for those, and even their Patreon for some of these other ones that we described. Alexa Grasso defeated Macy Barber. I'm glad I ended up playing, or I played Grasso at Dog Money in one house. But, I'm glad I ended up sticking on that side of things. Played out pretty much like I thought. I just got it wrong where I thought Barber would be more live in the beginning as opposed to the end. And, the read was definitely off there. I know that's not necessarily abnormal for her. However, just with the layoff and whatnot, I thought maybe, in her attitude, she might just try to come out steaming. I feel like the analysis was pretty spot on there with the clinch and whatnot. Kelvin Gastelum defeated Ian Heinisch. Just Grand B-Roll Central. Fun times. Ricky Simon Vato defeated Brian Kelleher in the unanimous decision. That went down relatively as expected. I really liked what I saw from Ricky Simon. Again, I talk more about him as well on the Heavy Hands podcast. And by the way, I think I shared the gift that Simone Holmes, I'm not even sure what movie that's from, but I always go, Simone Vato. That shouts out to Porchas, Pinchi Porchas. This dude I used to work with back in the day in construction. And it's a good dude. He'd always be like, Simone Vato. And I picked it up from there. Back when I was, actually just kind of having to do conversational Spanish back then, which was nice. I miss having to speak other languages or understand them. Julian Marquez defeated Maki Pitolo. Again, it was going to feel good for whoever won. I was going to feel horrible for whoever lost. And it just sucks. This was kind of a theme, and when one guy fights absolutely right and still ends up losing the fight, and that was definitely Maki Pitolo. It was tough, man. I picked Marquez to win, and I recommended the sub prop I sprinkled on that. So some people cashed on that. Awesome, you're welcome. And part of me, it's like I don't, I can't feel good ever with those kind of bets with the bias involved for me. So hopefully, it served you guys well. But I was talking to Eric, and again, just to show that, again, we make these picks. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, the relationships, who you are, your character. And Eric's obviously great character. I actually talked to him on Sunday. I actually think he's done an interview since. What did he do? An interview. He was on Unfiltered or something, which was great. Great to see Eric getting more shine as he deserves. I don't share anything private or anything, but it was a tough one, right? And he'll admit that himself because it was like they did everything right. He was giving great direction in the corner, but it was a great setup from Marquez. And sometimes there's a mental thing too deeply embedded in guys. Like I've noticed that, aside from the fact that we should respect these dudes, but I know it can be frustrating when you see a fighter that kind of constantly does that. And I'm sure people, the internet's not shy about letting these fighters know, unfortunately. But Man, I aside from the respect and the hypocrisy, but like even looking at my own game, I'm like, dude, I think I got some of that in me myself. Like, especially ever since doing this and breaking things down when I grapple, like I notice that like I'm that guy that'll be dominating most around top position, flowing from positions, and then I'll give up something so stupid in the end of rounds. Like, it's not uncommon for me to get submitted in the last 10 seconds. It's really weird. And it's not a matter of like, oh, hold on to the, like, it's just getting caught in a really bad position and forced to tap. Like, why did I let myself do that? And it's like this deep psychological thing. And I was just getting this conversation with Eric about it. And it's just something I'm going to be watching for, not with Maki particularly, just bringing it up because of the fight. But it's just something that, like, I think we see it happen again and again with certain fighters for a reason. I think there's something deeply psychological there. And again, not picking on Maki, wishing him nothing but the best, hoping the UFC gives him another shot, because that dude's just taking fights on short notice. He comes in there and he brings it, right? So wishing the best, and hopefully the UFC gives another nod to Maki. And obviously I'm happy for my guy Marquez. Obviously the talking points is the Miley Cyrus. I'm the last person to fucking comment on that, what he should have done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am as awkward as it gets. Like, Michael Cera from Superbad, a lot of his exchanges were loosely written on Dan Tom's life, folks, and oh boy, do I have stories there. Another day, just like the paddle story, that I'm going to have to shelf. A preliminary card. Anthony Hernandez defeated Rodolfo Vieira via guillotine. And, how do I say this? A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that jiu-jitsu used to make me smile. And Vieira knew if he had his chance, that he could make his people dance. And maybe they'd be happy for a while. But February made me shiver with every punch that Fluffy delivered. Bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't tweet one more sec. I can't remember if I cried when I read about his watching children and bride, but something touched me deep inside the day Jiu-Jitsu died. So bye-bye, Mr. Jack Jiu-Jitsu guy. You shot the magma under the gi lapel, but it just ran dry. And when you shot, you just gave your neck wide, while Fluffy... Guys, I can't even finish that shit. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. Yeah. As many podcasts went over, Jiu-Jitsu is dead. Jiu-Jitsu is fake. This is, yeah, everybody posting all those Muay Thai gifs of like all the beating up all the old Kung Fu masters. This is the pen. This is the comeuppance for that. This is what it feels like. This is exactly what it feels like. You stick around long. Time ruins everything. Little irreversible there, right? Oh my goodness. Props to Fluffy, but that was wow. Meowses. All right. Bilal Muhammad defeated Diego Lima via unanimous decision. Remember the name. Love the cradle. Love the shuck buys. He's got Leon Edwards now. That's gonna be interesting. Polyana defeated Mallory Martin. That was on my avoid list for a reason. I did say the armbar, the Freudian slip was correct, even though I as far as Martin, I said she's susceptible to arm bars when really she only got RNC'd, but nevertheless, I did say she was going to have to watch out for Polyana Viana's arm bars and guard submissions, so there you go. Chris Gutierrez defeated Andre Uhl, unanimous decision. Again, the read there was too well. It justified all the shit. You don't want to call it shit, because obviously I respect all these guys, and I don't hate on Uhl. I just tend to pick against them. Not all the time I pick him over Erwin Rivera, but against a good kicker. There was an open stance, but both Ewell and Gutierrez switched their stances, as we saw. So I don't think that played too much as a factor. I will give Gutierrez credit. I think there were some turning points in the clinch when he was able to pin Ewell down. And I was, questioning if that camp had good tactics there. And, I was just talking out of my ass. But obviously I love Factory X, but it was just something to watch for, wall work and pressure footwork, something that we talked about in heavy hands for the main event. Gabe Green defeated Phil Rowe, unanimous decision. Aside from the 30-27, I don't have an issue with the scorecard at all. I know there's some people contentious with the Rowe, and I bet Rowe too, but my more issue was with that there should have been a point taken. Just because it was just like 2 in a row, effect over intent. And it wasn't even like they throw the knee and the foot comes up, or they switch stances and dipped in. Like each one got more negligent as they went along. So with the point deduction that should have been there, it should have been a draw, And but I will say and again, it's like one guy, aside from getting dropped or his leg giving way. Which, maybe that was a bad thing that he trained with the Lima brothers that I was mentioning, because you could see, Diego Lima, his whole camp was spent throwing kicks. So who do you think was eating a lot of those kicks? Clearly Rowe, because like the first couple, he's just done. His leg is just done. And to Rowe's credit, he goes to that half guard game, the long man Damian Maia single leg that Neil Magny does, right? Again, my Magny reference there. Again, his underrated ground game, which if he would have controlled that, maybe 20 more seconds, that scramble looks a bit different, and the knockout doesn't come to, or the knockdown doesn't come to fruition, which is essentially all it was. One guy does something dumb and athletic over the technical guy, and that was it here. That being said, I hear Gabe Green's a nice dude. He seems like a nice dude, even though he's like all, going for takedowns after he's got a guy hurt. He's walking the wrong way. He's saying that it's like, he's a nice guy. I didn't want to hurt him is the reason why he didn't finish him. Like, grats on you if you laid the chalk and you got away with it here, but I don't know if Green's a guy you want to bet in the future. And again, not being salty here, he seems like a great dude, and I don't disagree with the decision as it was laid, but Mark Smith, man, you should have took a point there, bud. Yeah, and Jim Miller, Bobby Green was canceled. I know Green was a parlay piece for many, and Maverick was a play that was canceled. So, that is that. 17:55, and I'm going to pause real quick before we push on to the main card. All right, and we're back to start UFC Vegas 19. Weigh-ins are going on as I'm recording this. Apparently 2 misses. Gordon came in like 5 pounds over, and so did Draco Rodriguez. So I'll see if I can get some updates on that. Yeah, Alves weighed in at 157 pounds for a featherweight bout. That's a miss of almost 12 pounds. Wow, I was going to pick and play Sabatini, but I don't know if that fight's going to go on. The other fights technically don't have to go on at 5 pounds over either, but that is a little more rare, so I assume those will. Look at Chas Skelly making weight like a fucking pro. We'll get to that. But yeah, wow. Okay, maybe it's good that I didn't write my article for Line Movement, because some of these plays are already looking like they might be canceled. That is crazy. Good thing I read these, and I'm going to have you the most up-to-date breakdown, but I'm sure I won't be the only podcast doing that. I'm not gonna bust out the absolutes on you, especially with this show. I can't flex. It's like me rolling up in a Pinto going, yeah, you want some? But I appreciate you guys being here nonetheless, of course. Putting up with my terrible Don McLean songs. It's a good thing I just be glad I stopped singing that early. Probably would have went down a dark territory. You know me, when I start having to insert words in places, it's never good. Oh my god. Yeah, this is some stuff. Okay, well, we're gonna go and break it from top to bottom anyways. Main card breakdown should be dropping anytime right now on MMAJunkie.com. This, of course, is one I've already broken down before. Curtis Blades -460, Derek Lewis +365. Yeah, leave it to me to like pick against Elevation Fight Team's best fighters, and me who claims to love Elevation Fight Team, which I do. But I don't know why, man. This is just a weird fight. I always pick against Lewis, and I seldom ever pick against Blades, but when I do, either or, it's in the weirdest spots, hence this fight. Maybe it was because we've seen a lot of the opportunists beat the wrestlers around when this fight originally was booked, and that's also a canary in the coal mine I've been looking at. If you're finishing and cardio, doesn't line up with the wrestling wrestle first approach, there will be pockets for opportunists, especially durable ones like Lewis who can survive. I do think Lewis's tripod, and I'm not talking about. It's a juggernaut, bitch. What he's packing. The style of getup that he likes. Jesus, Dan. Sorry, folks. This is the Protecting It podcast. What are you gonna do? It's the style of getup that he likes. It's a turtle into a tripod getup, and he makes his back kind of like a downward 45-degree slanted slope for back takers to try to take advantage of and fail, like a Gonzaga or a Nelson. Not Blades' style. He's not really much of a jiu-jitsu guy, although lately he's saying he's starting to embrace it a bit more. However, it's going to be TKO or decision for Blades, right? As still his primary paths. Very likely, he's the deserved favorite, believe me, no issues, not questioning that. But that's what he's going to have to do. Whereas Lewis, early in his career, or not, back pain Lewis or not, flat Lewis or not, because he's always inconsistent, right? You don't know what you're going to get for the most part. He's like the king of late round comebacks. So I saw this thing of Curtis saying about his cardio, and I'm like, he doesn't really necessarily depend on his cardio. And the scary part is Lewis seems to be getting that better too. Because he's, everyone's like, oh, he's the Black Beast, he's big. Like, he's naturally a smaller guy. If you look at his earlier fights, he kind of grew into that frame. So he still has that smaller heavyweight motor that's fueling him. It's just, is he healthy, right? And in his last fight, that is the improvement we've seen. He's been in better shape. It's always hard to tell because he's always, I'm fine, and then his back problems, or I train a half-hour a day, and then he shows up in great shape. It's always hard to tell with Lewis. But you look at his performances, he actually looks better and looks tighter, right? Does that matter? Is he still going to get taken down? Yes. However, again, like I kind of discussed on my breakdown as well as on the Heavy Hands podcast, there are certain takedowns that work better on Lewis. Like I dare say 85 to 90% of the times he's been taken down have either been outside trip body lock or single leg variations. Blades does both those, or can do both those, but they're not mainly his main things. It's usually like in the Volkov fight, he does the quick single and chains off to the double. And then he kind of just gets tunnel vision and goes double, 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 power double, blast double, reactive double. Those are things, double against the fence. If that gets failed, it will come up to a body lock. You saw that a lot with the smaller wrestler that he faced from Pennsylvania. What's his name? Retired, got his knee fucked up in that fight. Fought De La Hocha. I gotta find it because people are going to be screaming at it because I am that guy. I can see the name too. I'm seeing him party at his after party. So I remember that. Adam Milstead, that's it. Adam Milstead. Samsonite. So close. Samsonite. Yeah. Anyways, so he's got those takedowns. I think Ed Gallo released an article. So maybe I'm getting it all wrong. Go check with Ed on Curtis Blades' takedowns. But we've seen him get stuck against the fence. Granted, it was 3.5 years ago against Daniel Omielanchuk. And Derek Lewis tends to do his best defending against the fence and / doubles. Like, that's the best way. He gets his underhooks and protects his hips and shucks guys off. Those are the ones he does generally better at. But is he going to get taken down? Of course. It's just if Blades can't finish him and he starts to tire, because I suspect that Blades only has one gear, is my worry, despite being an athlete, despite training in elevation, yada yada. You can't wrestle for 5 rounds straight. It's very exhausting, as we saw when he had to do against Volkov. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't suggest you follow me off a cliff. That being said, there was an over that was pretty ridiculous. I only got it at like minus 150, minus 160. I recommended it to some people when it was still minus 160 going up to minus 170. Let's see where it's at now. Because for some reason they only set it at 1.5. Minus 175 now. So that's about where the chalk ends. I get that because maybe you don't want to lay anything more than that. And I don't blame you. But regardless of who wins, I see this going over. Now, if it does go under, I feel like Lewis is the better chance there, right? He's going to throw the flying knee, like in the beginning of round 2 of his last fight, Olenek. That fight, if you bet the under, or if you bet the over, you lost because it went under, right? He knocks him out in the beginning with that flying knee. He can throw those more. He's been mentioning that for good reason. So watch out for that. The man already throws uppercuts. Blades shown he can be hurt, win or lose. So that's obviously there too. So my suggestion, I guess, is, like I said in the Live Movement MMA show, is I just put like a quarter unit at plus 365 because it's so high. I don't have to get much for a return. So if Blades or if Lewis hits, and then I laid the chalk on the over. I'm not happy, but I laid the chalk on it. Laying chalk on props is never fun because the reason why you ideally bet props is because it's sexy. But this is your basic money. This is your basic standard over under for the fight. So beggars can't be choosers there. It's much more of a basic read, so you're not going to get as sexy odds regardless, even if you do get the plus number. But still, laying chalk is laying chalk, and I'm not going to dress it up for anything other than it is. So I sprinkled a bit on Blades as well to help balance. And hopefully one or both of those hit, right? So that's my play there. Caitlin Vieira minus 270. Iana Kunitskaya, I say Mama Kunitskaya, plus 230. Easy, Dan. I'm surprised this line didn't get blown up. Maybe because people are afraid they got... Vieira was getting the hype juice, and then she gets knocked out randomly, which was like, whoa. But like I explained on Line Movement MMA betting show this week, Yana Kunitskaya's last TKO was 2016, and it was like an attritive one against like some random, I believe. And then you got to start going back to almost a decade into Cindy Dandois territory. No offense to Cindy Dandois. Been submitted by Cindy. It's definitely no offense to her, but you had to go back to like 2011, 2012 for her TKOs. Who was the other one? What was the 2016 one? Sorry. Oh, Wu Yunan, who obviously hasn't done great, and kind of saw her level, right? And I think she's like a flyweight, so that was like a 2-weight class difference at the time. So, I don't think she's going to get any play there. I like Caitlin Vieira a lot, especially because Yana Kunitskaya, her thing is kickboxing, but now, we saw her get out grappled, and now and she's using the clinch for, her safety valve. You look at the last fight, she was it was all clinch. And I'm like, you don't want to do that against Caitlin Vieira. That's going to be bad. So, especially small cage. Yeah, Vieira is the most confident parlay piece I got. You can pair her with Rosa, which I may do if my first leg fails, because my first leg's early if I want to chase, which I never recommend doing, by the way. I just couldn't decide who to pair it with. And I'm a big fan of Charles Rosa. Maybe that's why I'm overcorrecting the steering wheel. But even the line getting bid up to minus 185 next fight, Charles Rosa, Derek Minner, plus 160. From minus 145, I still feel that the price is fine. But again, it's chalk, and even though Rosa's never been subbed and he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, whereas Minor doesn't have a listed rank. Minor's obviously an underrated submission fighter. Not underrated, but he is a submission fighter who goes for that guillotine. And Rosa gives us his neck, we saw. However, we saw Rosa has different tubes that he can breathe from, which is pretty insane with all the head and arm and bare naked chokes that he's gotten through. The guy can fight through adversity. I'm a big fan. A lot of people aren't, because maybe his more karate style or whatever, but on the feet. But I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem here. I think he can outpoint Minor, survive the storms, get better positions, maybe even submit him late. So I haven't decided on an angle on how I wanted to play that yet. Maybe I am subconsciously leaving it as a reserve, in case my other chalk fails. So we'll see there. Chris Dawkins, speaking of chalk, minus 200. Alexei Olenek, plus 170. Money's coming on Dawkins. I don't blame you. I was going to look to bet the grapple grandpa. That's Dan Tom's style. But looking at Dawkins, he came up clinching a lot, which I didn't like. That was the reason why I was going to bet Olenek. But if you look at his last two fights, not only has Dawkins been coming in better shape, did come in a little bit heavier in this fight, but he said he was going to in interviews. He said he actually didn't even mean to come in that late on his last fight, for what that's worth. So don't condemn him if you see him hit a higher number on the scale. I know he already weighed in at the time of me recording this. Definitely the time you listen to this, obviously. But I'm going to go with Dawkins here just because I like the distance management that he showed, not just the weight management. And he's got the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt to hang on to. His brother to train with, even in this pandemic era. he's got some of the garage juju. Shout out to the MMA analysis, but he's also, I'm a cop, you idiot. He's like sharing cop stories and stuff. Like something about him scares me, but I'm gonna pick Dawkins here. Next fight, Phil Hoggs minus 125. Speaking of the MMA analysis, Jesus, but that one, it's tough. Jesus, Dan, stay on target. Nasruddin Imamov plus 105. Like I said in the Line Movement MMA betting show, this pisses me off. It's like another one of those things where, who was that other guy that faced Lima? I still can't think of his freaking name. I think he was like the Moldovan cat or whatever that could wrestle, and they open him like minus 115, and then they see like sharp people like myself or like I think Paul Shegacy. I'm not sure if I got that right, but him and CJ do I believe it's the Dogger Pass Pot. Anyway, shout out to them, those dudes for sure. But I know Paul was complaining about it as well, and this is like the same case, and where it's like, you motherfuckers opened Phil Hawes as the dog, and now you open him as the favorite. Like, because you saw who was on Hawes, you motherfuckers, and then like, folks, the reason why this was rescheduled is because not because of COVID, because Hawes had a leg injury. So, like, you're going to go ahead and the guy you open, for whatever math you used to open him as an underdog, he gets injured in the leg, and now they're going to do a quick turnaround, and now you're going to make him the favorite. You must be going by Dan Tom's third leg analysis, knowing that Hoggs has got his reserve, Jesus, Dan, that's not how it works. Well, boy. Speaking of the tripod, Jesus, Dan, come on. No, I like Hawes here. This guy sounds super disciplined. Just doesn't let himself focus on anything else. Just kind of living that championship lifestyle. Took his knocks early because he got the push, like I explained when I broke this fight down before. Whereas Imavov, I think the OV in the name fools a lot of people. He comes from a really good camp in France, MMA Factory. Got a respect for them. He's got a nice 1-2, pull 1-2. But, this guy wasn't like forged in the fires of Dagestan. He doesn't have any combat sambo, doesn't have any kind of accolades like that. No jiu-jitsu ranks, nothing. And he was getting pushed to the fence by, a diabetic welterweight that was, I think maybe even fighting on short notice. He was getting bullied. He's going to get bullied by Hawes too, I think. Unless he catches him clean in the first. Arlovsky plus 210. Tom Aspinall minus 250. Tom Aspinall looks like Frank Mir and Bellator PR guy. Danny Brenner had a kid. Random shout with the Danny Brenner, but... So... He's just, he moves light for a heavyweight, and this would be a typical spot where I bet Arlovsky by decision, like I did with, Tuivasa. But you look at Aspinall, and even though he's got all that lack of third-round experience, I like how this guy moves a lot. I like his attitude. He's done kickboxing, boxing, black belt, and jiu-jitsu. He's built himself around what's just shown on his MMA record. Cage cut, shows that he can cage cut, show some awareness even to random spinning stuff. I would love to be wrong here, which is maybe why I stayed away from it, but I'm gonna pick Aspinall, but it's too chalky for me. So yeah, Mitaso, go there. Oh, speaking of which, I got some random, not random, but a decent amount of questions about the Bellator thing. I brought up Bellator there, or the Bellator shout there. No, I think that the names came out. I wasn't even aware or approached. Not that I would partake, but no. I believe the names came out and who that is. I'm finding out about so much this week. Some of it I'm finding out with y'all, and other stuff I found out ahead of time. So it's just been a fucking crazy week for me personally, and I'm catching up on all this other stuff professionally. So appreciate y'all who reached out and yeah, I'm sure, if I've already responded, I think you can all see for your shelves on that. But yeah, MMA is a strange place. What fight were we freaking on? Sorry, I'll try to stay on target. It's always tough for Dan Tom over here to stay on freaking target. But that's why you tune in, right? That's why you kids tune in. What the fucking fight? Oh yeah, I'm taking Aspinall. Next fight, Danny Chavez minus 150, Jared Gordon plus 130. Chavez was opened as a dog. Money came in on him. I can see why. Definitely seems like the MMA gambler pick. He's got the calf kicks. He's got the striking. But no, this guy's got some a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well, and some decent wrestling. Man, I really like the way he moves and scrambles, and that's going to come in handy against Jared Gordon. I'm still going to pick Gordon despite his weight miss, because I think that fight, I have a suspicion it'll still go on. And the weight miss is probably going to help Gordon in the small cage to put his wrestling game. I think he's going to just do what he did to Fishgold. And, Danny Chavez, the stable keeps growing, but as far as like wrestlers, aside of maybe Covington, like, I don't know who's going to have that style. And I don't know if he's faced that style. So, I'll pick the dog here. Excuse me. And part of me is always going to be rooting for a guy like Gordon, right? With all the adversity that this guy is always seemingly having to go through. But, yeah, man. Definitely wasn't going to be a play I recommend, but now I'm like hesitant on even sprinkling. But I'm going to stick with my guns on the pick. I'm still going to pick Jared Gordon to wrestle. He seems to understand what Chavez does in interviews, so let's see if he can prevent those calf kicks. Yeah, because the third round's going to be ugly for both guys, I believe. We'll see, though. Drakkar Klose, minus 170. Luis Pena, plus 150. I'm going with Team Build-A-Bear here. A Team Teddy Bear, Drakkar Klose, he's sitting there with, Brown Bear, come on, Devin. Devin Clark, and who else is on Team Teddy Bear there? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Drakkar Klose is Drakkar Klose is certainly Team Teddy. Oh, Darren Wynn. Darren Wynn is Team Teddy Bear for sure. But yeah, I'm going Drakkar Klose. MMA fighters looks like they've been built in a Build-A-Bear shop. Both these guys have been coming off long layoffs where they've rebuilt themselves, so to speak. Coming in great shape, refocused, some camp changes, although it's hard to tell because both have really cut off their social media, so you can't really do research. That being said, I'll go with the more proven guy who's not coming in on short notice, which is Drakkar Klose. It's not something I talk about enough, as I should. It's not an end-all, be-all stat, granted, but quality of competition matters. And Drakkar Klose has fought the tougher guys and has never been submitted, and he's only been stopped by Beneil Dariush, which is aged well. However, Dariush is a southpaw, and so is Timur, has two UFC losses there. And those guys are both southpaws, so he is technically 0-2 against them southpaws. Unless Devin Powell or whoever that early kid was that he fought was a southpaw. But usually that would be a flag for your boy who's all about them southpaw stats. But I'm going to go against it, In the pandemic, that's where people who was really allergic to southpaws and got his first southpaw win after being 0-5. Dalby, right? So, again, you can't live and die by those stats either, as much as I want to flex on my southpaw stats, right? So I'm actually going to go with Drakkar Klose here. Pena doesn't have the pop or the process. I don't believe, and I don't think nor can he out wrestle Klose. So if Klose was able to beat Bobby Green, he's going to be able to beat Luis Pena. So that's. Especially Luis Pena was getting his shots defended and then getting taken down, and then obviously getting submitted by Kama Worthy. Yeah, I think Drakkar Klose is going to get this one. All right, next we got let's get through this. This will be on my avoid list. Castaneda minus 125, wine list plus 105. On my avoid list because I didn't do tape, and let's be honest, I think if I did do tape, it would still be on my avoid list. I'm going to pick Castaneda in the small cage. It's hard to depend on a Wineland, but. If a WEC guy, dog odds, wins, I ain't going to be upset about it. Nate Landva, Nate the Train, minus 120. Julian Arosa, Bueller, plus 100. This matchup is straight out of the 80s. Nate Landwehr, he's got, the haircut and the receding hairline of the 80s, He looks like badass Billy Gunn's, dad, Oh, you didn't know. I'm going to blame Brad Taschuk for his get-up on the analysis this week for getting that New Age Outlaws stuck in my head. But, yeah. I'm actually going to go with Ferris Bueller's best friend, Cameron. Dan, that joke never gets old, doesn't it? I know, I'm going to be what do you call, what's his name? Shooter McGavin with the sand trap joke. Come on, guys, don't you think it's funny? Yeah, it was funny the first 4 times, Shooter. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Arosa here. It's funny, man. He only gets knocked out by southpaws, And outside of getting knocked out by Southpaw Artem Lobov in what was technically an exhibition bout on Tough, he's undefeated in the UFC small cage and has his best performances in there. So we got Julian Erosa back in the small cage against Nate Landwehr. I feel like either Nate Landwehr, I think he should be the deserved favorite, by the way. I was kind of surprised to see it get close, so that's why I wasn't excited in my Erosa play, but now that he's back to plus money, I will be sprinkling very small on Erosa, by the way. This is like a dog or pass or just enjoy. Probably just sprinkling very small. I just liked what I saw more by the time I got to my Emmers tape study, which I'll get to that there, and basically it was like Emmers is like kind of like Landwehr in the fact that they different guys, different lengths, but the fact that they're boxing level changing a little bit too liberal on that head movement, and you're like, man, if a guy just head kicks, they're going to be in trouble. And as I was watching Jamal Emmers stuff, which I'll get to, I'm like, oh, it's not a surprise Julian Erosa upset him, and Erosa saw that head kick and whack. So if he saw it there, I got to imagine Erosa sees it here with Landwehr. And as we saw, Landwehr, he's durable, he can recover, but he is willing to scrap, which is the problem. Both spiritually, directionality, and again technically with the head movement, he dips down or either to side pretty hard, and when you run into something perfect like you saw with the Herbert Burns knee, all of a sudden you're giving a guy who has no business doing the highlight knockout, giving you the highlight knockout, you know. Not discrediting Herbert Burns, obviously much better striking than given credit to, but you get what I'm saying here, right? So I think it's either a Erosa head kick knockout or Landwehr gets Erosa up high, because Erosa likes to brawl too, which could be bad. He depends on his chin too. So we'll see. I'm a big fan of Nate the Train, man. Been interviewing him with MMA Junkie Radio for years now. You know, back when he was making his M1 Ascension. So, you know, I'm not sleeping on Nate. You know, I got love for Nate if he wins here. But I'm going to pick Erosa. Next fight, Casey O'Neill minus 155, Shayna Dobson plus 135. I'm going to pick O'Neill here, but this is on my avoid because I didn't get to watch tape on it. Shayna Dobson, I think we're all respecting as we should. Shout out to her. She did a really awesome panel, I believe, with the Fight Site podcast. That was awesome last year. About black athletes that I believe was much needed. So, you know, obviously I'm going to be partly rooting with her. I think she's Elevation Fight Team as well. Comes from a good team. I guess I'll technically pick O'Neill because I'm just going to be safe because I didn't study this fight. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe dog or I don't know. Who knows? Don't listen to me. It's going to be an avoid, right? That's why it's an avoid. Next fight. Whoa. Jamal. I wasn't expecting to see you so soon. Oh. Little Sean Connery. The Jamal Emmers minus 240 and Chaz Skelly plus 200. Jamal Emmers is you know, a parlay piece people ask me about, and I get it. Like, he fits the package, but upon further review, I don't disagree with him being favored, but I actually would probably be picking Skelly anyways in this, aside from my bias towards Skelly. I mean, Skelly's like one of those guys where like I auto bet subs, so don't listen to me. I'm kind of biased here, I guess, but however, plus 200. Skelly made weight look great on the scale. This guy's been training his butt off. He just had a lot of bad luck. He didn't recover. You know, he didn't recover from an arm surgery and then breaks his arm in the Jason Knight fight. And of course, that Bobby Moffitt BS that where he wasn't even out. He was just getting into the fight. Yeah, Chaz Skelly's the better wrestler than Jamal Emmers. Emmers is good offensive wrestling, but we really haven't had to see too much defensively. You know, he's shown good defensive here. He's been taken down on the regionals there. Really hard to tell relevantly where he's at, right? But he trained with Caldwell for a while, trains with Bobby Green at Pinnacle. So you know his wrestling's going to be on point. It's got a little bit of that Bobby Green attitude about him, which is good. But then that too much of that head movement, right? It got him head kick KO'd by Erosa. He still does that in spirit, but he does try to tighten it up, it seems, for sure. He has level-changing takedowns, but, like, he's weird when he goes to it. It's like he should be going to it earlier than he does. He'll go for it too late. He'll go for it at the end of the rounds, which is good, but we're seeing judges be swayed by that less and less, which is probably why he lost to Chikadze, although I still felt like he should have got the nod there. I'm not going to go too hard on either side for that fight, but even Jamal Emmers admits himself that he fights too close, and that's a big worry. You know, anyone who fights too close at that price, you got to be careful about. And speaking of too close, Chaz Skelly gets close to you. Chaz Skelly, you know, Jamal Emmers has that thing where like he looks like he has good defense. He does the, as Conor Rebush does, that shogun head movement on the outside, but once he'll back up and he's got good reaction speed there. But I suspect that's the extent of his defense because the guy gets tagged with right hands really early. And say what you will about Chaz Skelly, he's actually pretty accurate, active, commits, and has deceptively heavy right hands. His striking has tightened up, even though we've only seen him once since 2017 in that 2019 showing. But again, that was all Sanford MMA. So he's almost got like 3.5 to 4 years with Sanford MMA, despite only 1 or 2 maybe showings as far as what we've seen. So leave room to be surprised. That being said, is Chaz Skelly going to become a defensive mastermind? No, but I don't think he's going to need to. Chaz Skelly will sell out. He will fight for your money. That is one thing that's for sure. He won't fight close. He will give it his all. Even if he gasses himself in the first round going for the finish, he will go for that finish. And even if he doesn't get the finish and looks dead gassed to rights like he did against, what was his name, Jordan, or the native savage there. I know the guy's nickname, right? He still dug it out, dude. Like, I love it. Like, you just saw him tired, but he dogs it out. He'll get to the back and he'll backpack around. He's such a good scrambler. Jamal Emmers is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but he recently got that brown belt, and that doesn't matter if he recently got it or not. His grappling skills are not near Skelly's. I just, he says his favorite, it's listed that his favorite submission is a knee bar, which is good for Emmers, but I don't see him having much leg savvy, whereas Skelly will use leg locks to get to people's backs, to steer himself on top. So Jamal's really going to get tested here, and at over 2-1 spread, dude, I'm going to take my guy Chaz Skelly, dude. Chaz Skelly does tend to do well against longer opponents as well. Minus maybe the Jason Knight, although he probably was still longer than him. But Kevin Souza, back in 2015, that's when Jamal Emmers was like making his debut. Chaz Skelly was having out wrestle dudes in Brazil pre-USADA, man. And win fights there. I know obviously Souza was a striker, but still, he made Aaron Bronstedter's top 5 prospects that never came to fruition list. And yeah, Chaz Skelly's been going at it, man. Whereas Emmers, he admits he doesn't like when guys are as tall or have the reach as him. And I'll see Chaz Skelly's reach here, but Chaz Skelly is taller than him by an inch. So, let's see here. Brownie, I see you. It's okay. Sorry. His reach, no. He's actually not he's an inch and a half shorter on reach, but still, we'll see. It's going to be mainly grappling anyways, so I'm going to take a shot on Skelly here, and I think I just threw a unit on him at plus 200. Alright, next fight. Draco Rodriguez, minus 185, versus, hey man, Zahabi, plus 160. Hey man, sounded like really focused, like he knew what he had to do. I was listening to his interview with shouts to Aaron Bronstetter, TSN MMA show. I feel like he's a live dog, maybe even more, that Draco Rodriguez missed weight, but then going back to watch the tape on Zahabi, I just feel like he needs a finish. And you look at who he hasn't fought, he hasn't really fought very many good people. And that was kind of thing, Jamal Emmers not as much, but if you look, you could kind of dissect his record, and question it, like his best win, Chris Avila, and I know he beat Sandhagen, but like, folks, he had over double the fights as Sandhagen, and had to dog out like a wrestling performance, and that is shown to be Sandhagen, and that was at 45, and that is shown to be Sandhagen's, at least, especially then, Kryptonite. I know he's improving, but you get what I'm saying there. You got to be careful how you judge a resume. And Zahabi's is kind of questionable too. And I'm not convinced. I know he's won one decision in the UFC against the dude who gassed Vieta, but Vieta's gas. Don't gas, Caitlin. Don't gas like the other Vietas. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on Zahabi. I think the athleticism and the speed is going to be on Rodriguez's side, so I'm going to pick Rodriguez, but I stayed away, and I'll probably definitely stay away now that he missed weight. Sergey Spivak minus 245, Jared Vandera plus 205. Vandera, despite losing weight, still he came in at 265 and still looks all the heavyweight, but I'm actually going to pick him here. Hard to get his footage because EFC, and he wasn't able to get fights as regional heavyweights, kind of struggle. But from people in the know, the guy's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Good submissions. He's got skills. He's been waiting for train Team Quest and stuff. So in that area, California. Sorry, that dog, Brownie. So I sprinkled on the dog here, actually, just because Spivak is terrible. He looks like he's fighting for rights for an ice fishing hole. But don't follow me off that cliff. But I just would stay away from that fight in general. Rafael Alves came in freaking 12 pounds. I don't know if I'm going to break this fight down. Like I said, Sabatini plus 165. I played Sabatini. I liked his style better. I thought, basically he's going to be able to grapple, put it on Alves, who's going to gas, because he chose to gas. And Alves, again, another deceptive record of who he's fought. He's fought a little bit better guys than meets the eye, but you look at the stylistic things, I didn't like that style for him. And Sabatini's just looks small, but he actually, was going to stack up pretty decently to Alves, who's huge for that weight class. So, yeah, I took a shot on Sabatini. I liked what I saw there. And I like Alves, too, who's my initial pick. And then I ended up changing my pick. And now it's probably not going to matter because I bet the fight's going to be canceled. How did we do on the time for the Expo? 51, not too bad, eh? All right, going to recap. Taking Derek Lewis over Curtis Blades. Ooh, don't follow me off that cliff. Taking Yana Kunitskaya. No, taking Caitlin Vieira over Yana Kunitskaya. Mama Kunitskaya. Taking Charles Boston Miss Rosa over Derek Minner. Taking Chris Dawkins, hashtag Dukakis, over Alexei Olnick. Taking Phil Hoggs over Nasruddin Imamov. Taking Tom Aspinall over Andrei Arlovsky. Taking Jared Gordon over Danny Chavez. Taking Jakar Close for Luis Pena. Taking John Castaneda over Eddie Wineland. Taking Bueller. Julian Arosa over Nate the Train Landwehr. Taking Casey O'Neill over Shayna Dobson. Taking Jamal. No, taking Chaskelly over Jamal Emmers. Taking Draco Rodriguez over, hey man, Zahabi. Taking Jared Vandera over Sergey Spivak. Taking Pat Sabatini over Rafael, 12 pounds over Alves. And shoot, did I miss anything? Just thank you guys for everything. Seriously, for the support, the love. I don't deserve it. Appreciate you. Any new listeners, appreciate you as well. Sorry about the late, fast version. It's crazy. I'm trying to be better. Oh, you guys better. Took Vieira close plus 118 to review the plays as I get out of here. Sabatini 1 unit, which will probably get canceled. Skelly 1 unit, which will probably get canceled. Gordon, looking at was looking at a quarter unit, but I don't know if I want to lay that now. Vandera, I did lay a quarter unit. There's the quarter. That's what I wrote the quarter for. Okay, I got it mixed on my lines. Lewis, I did lay a quarter unit plus 365. Arosa, question mark, although I actually pulled the trigger in one house. I played him small. And then Haas, question mark. I'm going to see if Imamov money comes in and you get a bit of price on Hogs. Props, might do Haas inside the distance. Plus 115 while it's still there. Otherwise, I just laid the chalk on Lewis Blades over minus 160, 1.6 U. Avoided Castaneda, Wineland, and O'Neill Dobson. All right, folks. Much love to you all. Good luck on your picks and plays. And always protect your neck.